Clemson, Texas, first-round playoff game. Saturday, 4 o'clock Eastern on TNT. Make sure you're not searching in vain, guys. This is on TNT. This is one of those sub-licensing situations. So I thought a very, very basic question about Clemson going into the ACC championship game. And they took it and they won the game and then they put it in the hype video. So the simple question was, is Clemson still a big game program? I thought it was fair to ask about a team that had lost a quarter of their games in the regular season, including against anyone with more than a pulse. Louisville, South Carolina, Georgia. Well, good for them. They went and won the conference championship game. I'm going to ask it again. So you guys hit record. I'm going to ask it one more time. I'm going to do it really, really emphatically so it sounds good if you pull the upset. I'm going to ask it again. Is Clemson still a big game program? And cut. But you know what? I'm going to ask it about Texas as well. Is Texas a big game program? Because I watched them twice against Georgia, and they didn't get the job done. And those were basically the two really, really big opportunities they had this year. Now, they went to A&M, and they won. They hung 17. But since they're so dominant defensively, they didn't need to do anything more than that. But the two big stages they've been on this year, they crashed. But they're still good enough to be in the playoff. And they're still good enough to be favored by, 11.5 against Dabo Swinney and the Clemson Tigers. So, Clemson in 2024, I can sum them up pretty easily. Can they generate explosive plays offensively? If they can win the game. If they can't, they'll get buried. It's been very, very crystal clear that is their team profile this year. It used to be when you saw that Tiger paw, you expect dominant defense. Well, that hasn't been the case this year. Explosive plays, it's either feast or famine with them. They are top 20 in every bucket in terms of creating explosive plays this year. The problem is Texas's defense is number 1 in America in preventing that. The matchup's horrible for Clemson, by the way. Texas defense also top 15 against the run. So if Clemson gets limited on the ground and this matchup is as lopsided as I think it is when it comes to Clemson's O-line versus Texas's D-line, then that puts Cade Klubnik under immense pressure. And they've got to create explosive plays through the air against a defense that never gives it up and understands that, hey, that's the deal. And I watched A&M try to do it, and they couldn't. And Clemson is a more effective offense than A&M. I would grant you that. But A&M was at home. Clemson's going to be on the road for this. Here's the counter to that. Because I think the matchup's really bad for Clemson. But here's the counter to that. Texas doesn't score a lot. That's the counter to that. And when you don't score a lot, you insert a lot of variance. Every bounce of the ball means more. Every play, every drive, it means a lot more. Now, if they go your way, then they go your way. But if a couple of things go against you, you saw it in the Georgia game. Georgia's backup's in the second half of the game. You've got the lead, but a couple of things go against you, and you can't score. So what happens? Well, the game gets compacted a lot more than it should on paper. Texas has scored 20 or less 3 of the last 4 games. Penalties have been a big issue for this team this year. So I haven't loved the offensive dynamic from them. I will say until the day I die, hopefully about 113 years from now, I will continue to say I was very surprised that Sark did not play Arch in the SEC championship game. I'm going to say I expect him to play in this game. I expect that Arch Manning has to be a pretty significant factor for Texas if they're going to win the whole thing. Now, there's a path where he's not and they don't, but I don't think there's a path where they do and he's not. He's got to be a factor here. And here's the dirty secret about Clemson. Their defense is not great this year. They're 123rd in the country in explosive plays allowed. That defense does not match the profile of Georgia. That defense does not match the profile of A&M. So, yeah, you could sit there and give yourself some confidence that, man, Texas didn't score against Georgia. Texas didn't even score a whole lot against A&M. Yeah, but you're not them, and they're at home now. So, Texas, I'm telling you, on paper, Texas should run the score up in this game. 11.5 is not a big enough number. If you believe games are played on paper, they are not. And I will also say, because Clemson matches up so bad, that gives very little incentive for Clemson to maintain their profile. Now, it could be that Dabo looks and says, we're Clemson, we're just doing things our way, come what may. Well, if they do that, they're probably going to lose. I don't think they'll be competitively ignorant enough to do that. They can be a little arrogant, but not ignorant. I don't think they will be. Now, what I don't know is what they'll try instead. I don't know. They've been around the block. That staff's been around the block a long time, so they understand big games. They understand these moments. They understand how to get the most out of their team at the right time. Clemson is top 5 in turnover margin. That's always there in these games. In one four-quarter scenario, that's always there. I just think about Texas this year because Clemson has a top 10 talent roster according to the 24/7 team talent composite. And Texas has faced a few of those teams this year. Texas has faced Georgia twice. They faced A&M, and then they faced Oklahoma. Now, Oklahoma was dog water this year. They played Georgia twice and couldn't get it done against them. They played A&M, and A&M held them to 17, but they couldn't score. But those were compacted games. So Clemson, on paper, qualifies as a top 10 talent roster. Colin, I think now's as good a time as any to take a look at what the model thinks. So the FanDuel number is Texas minus 11.5. The model is even bigger on Texas. Of course it is. The model has never picked Texas not to cover. I agree with the model, and I just issue a fair warning to Texas. Do not embarrass me. Do not embarrass me, because I could throw this model in the garbage. I could go Ron Swanson. I could take this laptop. I could march out back and throw it in the dumpster. Texas should win this game. They should win it with authority. They should win it comfortably. They should. This right here, this is paper, okay? And I am going to believe that all these words and all these numbers equate to a football game, and here I am thinking that the game's going to be played on paper. I've set myself up. I know it. Dabo's done it to me before. And he set the trap. I walked into it. But here I am again. Here I am. My favorite Patti Loveless song. Here I am. And I'm waiting for Texas to let me down again. But I cannot quit. I cannot quit Texas. I just can't do it. I can't do it.